My name's Arthur, and I invite you to join me as we share together from Judges chapter 4. The book of Judges gives us 7 cycles of declension and restoration of the nation of Israel. How they turned away from the Lord, how the Lord delivered them into the hand of their enemies, how they cried to the Lord for help, and the Lord raised up a deliverer for them. But each cycle they went deeper into sin. And the source of the problem was simply that they married Canaanites and then started to worship the Canaanite gods, and so turned from the God of Israel. The deliverances that the Lord gave become even more remarkable. In chapter 4 we read where God raised up a woman to challenge the children of Israel to turn back to him. When Ehud was dead, the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who dwelt in Harosheth Hagoyim. And the children of Israel cried out to the Lord, for Jabin had 900 chariots of iron, and for 20 years he had harshly oppressed the children of Israel. Now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time. And she would sit under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the mountains of Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for judgment. Then she sent and called for Barak, the son of Ahinoam, from Kedesh in Naphtali, and said to him, Has not the Lord God of Israel commanded? Go and deploy troops at Mount Tabor. Take with you 10,000 men of the sons of Naphtali and of the sons of Zebulun. And against you I will deploy Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitude, at the river Kishon, and I will deliver him into your hand. Then Barak said to her, If you will go with me, then I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go. So she said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, there shall be no glory for you in the journey you are taking, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kedesh. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kedesh. He went up with 10,000 men under his control, and Deborah went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite, of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, had separated himself from the Kenites, and pitched his tent near the terebinth tree at Zaanaim, which is beside Kedesh. And they reported to Sisera that Barak the son of Ahinoam had gone up to Mount Tabor. So Sisera gathered together all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the people who are with him, from Harosheth Hagoyim to the river Kishon. Then Deborah said to Barak, Up, for this is the day in which the Lord has delivered Sisera into your hand. Has not the Lord gone up before you? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. And the Lord routed Sisera and his chariots and all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak. And Sisera alighted from his chariot and fled away on foot. But Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not a man was left. However, Sisera had fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. For there was peace between Jabin king of Hazor and the house of Heber the Kenite. And Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me, do not fear. And when he had turned aside with her into the tent, she covered him with a blanket. Then he said to her, Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a jug of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him. And he said to her, Stand at the door of the tent, and if any man comes and inquires of you and says, Is there any man here? you shall say, No. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg, and took a hammer in her hand, and went softly to him, and drove the peg into his temple, and it went down into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary. So he died. And then, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said to him, Come, I will show you the man whom you seek. And when he went into her tent, there lay Sisera, dead, with a peg in his temple. So on that day God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, in the presence of the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel grew stronger and stronger against Jabin, king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin, king of Canaan. May the Lord bless his word to us. So Deborah is the fourth judge of Israel listed. So this is about 150 years after the death of Joshua. The scenario repeats itself. Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and so the Lord allowed Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor, which is in the north, to come and attack them. And he put them under his control. He had a strong army. He had 900 chariots. The children of Israel did not have chariots. They lived in the hill country, but chariots are very powerful in the plain. And for 20 years he harshly oppressed the children of Israel. So, as a Gentile ruler, he resented the fact that the Israelites had come in and taken the land of Canaan away from the Canaanites. He did not acknowledge the God of Israel. He made life very difficult for the children of Israel. But the life of the children of Israel did continue, and in the absence of a man to be a leader of Israel, it fell to Deborah, who is a prophetess. The Lord obviously spoke to her and gave her great wisdom. She was the wife of Lapidoth, and she was judging Israel at that time. She set up a base under a tree near Bethel in the mountains of Ephraim, and when the children of Israel had issues, they would come to her. There were the cities of refuge, and so simple cases would be dealt with there, but the difficult cases they brought to Deborah at Bethel. Deborah now takes the initiative, calling Barak to raise an army to fight Jabin, an army from Naphtali and Zebulun, from near the Sea of Galilee, and to do so at Mount Tabor, a very unique-looking mountain overlooking the plains of Jezreel. Barak says, I'm not going to go unless you come with me. Deborah says, yes, I'll come with you, but the honour for this battle will go to a woman. Nevertheless, Barak, in great faith and trust in God, amasses his 10,000 men and goes to the place that the Lord indicated on the day that the Lord indicated, and the Lord gave him great victory. We'll see how in chapter 5. Sisera had to leave his chariot. As he fled, he came to the tent of Heber the Kenite, and Jael, Heber's wife, welcomed him in. Heber's father was brother-in-law to Moses. They were not Israelites, and Sisera didn't realize that they were on Israel's side. And when Sisera, weary from running, comes to his wife, she makes him welcome. She gives him some milk. She puts him under a blanket and urges him to sleep to renew his strength. But while he is asleep, she assassinates him because he is fighting against the Lord. She is the one who receives the honour for turning the tables against Jabin, who is eventually defeated. It requires great faith and trust in God to resist evil. Evil must be resisted. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Israel, under Deborah and Barak, had to rise up against Sisera and Hazor, for they were acting illegally. God had given the land to Israel. Jael is honoured because she destroyed the Lord's enemy.